Jesus, that's hot. Hey kids, welcome back to another pizza party. I'm Mrs. Pizza, and this is a reading vlog. Apparently I have timed it correctly today because last time I tried to do this, the dogs were literally running all over me. And today we got both dogs just completely passed out. So we're doing good. Full disclosure, I'm in like a teensy, like a tiny, like a little itsy bitsy, just barely just little hiccup of a reading slump. I blame this on the fact that I've been reading a lot of books that I've really enjoyed recently, and you know, the universe is like, no, you calm down. It can't be all roses all the time. We gotta take your favorite thing and make it not your favorite thing right now. I'm pulling out all the stops and trying to get myself out of a reading slump. So in order to do so, what I decided to do, here's the plan. We are going to pick 1, an audiobook, 2, an ebook, so something that will be traveling around with me either on my Kindle or on my phone, which honestly, having it on my phone makes it easier for me to pick up whenever I'm somewhere that my emotional support physical book could not come with me. And number 3, we're gonna pick a physical book, but we're gonna pick something that we're excited about and that's short and easy to get through because nothing gives us a bump of serotonin like finishing a book. So I've decided that the ebook that I'm going to be reading this week is going to be Gild, number 1 in the Plated Prisoner series, and that is by Raven Kennedy. Sure is, got it right. This book was on Kindle Unlimited. I haven't kept up with the drama, but I downloaded it off of Kindle Unlimited onto my Kindle, and then apparently there was some sort of piracy issue that caused Amazon to pull it off of Kindle Unlimited recently, and the author has been trying their best to fix this issue. It sounds horrific and it sounds awful, but I'm a lucky girl and already had downloaded it, so I'm gonna read it. I just looked and the second one is still available if, you know, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me and I have to keep going. I've also been told by friends on Goodreads that this book is a lot of setup, so I think I have the correct expectations for this fantasy romance that is basically, all I know is it's a King Midas inspired thing where he is got this lady that he turned her gold, and I think she's our main character. That's all I know. But it is made the rounds quite beloved and sounds like it's a steamy good time. So, ebook is going to be Gild. The next book that I'm going to pick up, my physical book, is A Psalm for the Wild Built, and this is by Becky Chambers. This is the first book in, it's called A Monk and a Robot, I think is the name of the series. It is teensy and has been basically pitched as cozy sci-fi. I know nothing. I literally know nothing, and I kind of want to keep it that way. Other than Becky Chambers is known for their more cozy sci-fi books, and this is, I'm pretty sure it's about a robot and a monk. I mean, it's so tiny. There's no way that I won't make it through there fast. How many pages is this? Why is turning pages suddenly the hardest thing that's ever happened? It is 147 pages, cats and dogs, and so I feel like I can just, this is gonna give me the bump of serotonin that I need in my brain to get me out of a reading slump. The last book that we have to pick is going to be our audiobook, and I have no clue what I want. Currently on loan from the library, the books I think I only have one audiobook, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. It's got a big old octopus on the cover. That's literally all I know about it, and that this was one of the longest waits I've been on for a book at the library, and it was like every week I would get a notification on the app saying, your library has gotten 4 more copies, your library has gotten 5 more copies. So apparently this is a very popular book. I know nothing about it. I'm not making any commitment to that one because if these other 2 books aren't helping me get through the slump, then something I know absolutely nothing about with an octopus on it probably isn't a good bet. I will probably have to pick another romance because those tend to get me out of reading slumps. So far, we have Gild by Raven Kennedy, to be announced, and A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. Let's hope this works. Little bit of an update. I've started Gild which is #1 in the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy, and I can actually tell you what it's about. This is a take on the whole King Midas. I am recording. If you hear him cooking and screaming in the background, he has headphones in, and so every time I've warned him that I'm recording, he can't hear me. He's really excited about his juice, apparently. Yep, he's talking about his juice to the dog. If you can hear him cooking, if you can hear birds singing, if you can hear dogs playing, we are currently pet sitting. I have 4 dogs and 2 birds at my house right now. One of them just made a gross sound behind me, so that's nice. I live in a circus. So I am 43% of the way into Gild by Raven Kennedy, and this is the one that I am currently reading on ebook. I downloaded it off of Kindle Unlimited, and I can give you a little bit more about what's going on at this point. So this is a King Midas reimagining, is what I'm going to call it. Basically, our main character is this woman that has been gold touched by King Midas. He found her or rescued her or saved her at some point when she was much younger, and she's basically lived in a golden cage in his palace since she was 15, if not a little bit younger. I was told from the beginning that the first book in this series is a little bit of a setup for the rest of the series. Some people have even called this a prequel, even though it is listed as book 1, and I think this was the first book to come out. This is a book that you need to check your trigger warnings. There is some traumatic nonsense happening in this. There is some Stockholm syndrome, grooming that has occurred that we speak of. There is some crazy nasty sex scenes, and our main character looks at King Midas as if he is the son, he is her savior, he is the best, even though he keeps her in a cage, and pretty much it sounds like he groomed her at some point. I have a feeling that he's going to become our big bad in the subsequent books in the series, but you've got to get through the first book and all the build up to get there. I'm holding out hope that I really enjoy this. Right now, it just feels like we're following someone through some horrific, traumatic, and pretty bad circumstances, and they haven't fully come to understand that the circumstances that they're in aren't that great. They think, aren't I safe in my big gold cage, even though King Midas is pretty awful? So that's where we are with that one. I think I'm really going to like this, though, because I'm not disliking it. And then I am picking it up, which is the point of reading these through my reading slump. The birds are literally screaming. And not a single one of the 4 dogs that's here has come to visit me while I'm recording. So we're doing okay. I've also gotten 50% of the way through of A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This is the first book in the Monk and Robot series that this author has started, and it is a cozy sci-fi, and that is exactly how I would describe it so far. Basically, now that I'm halfway through the book, I can tell you what it's about. So we have a non-binary monk from a large city. They belong to basically a religion that has numerous gods, but this is basically after the fall of civilization and robots gained consciousness and left this civilization quite a while before the story even picks up. Our monk is taken up the mantle of tea monk, where they have this cute, adorable, it sounds like, little cart that they travel from kind of little town to town that are outside of the one big city in this world. And they visit these little settlements, give out tea, and listen to everybody's troubles. Basically, these tea monks are kind of a form of counseling for people. Whatever they're going through, the monks provide a certain blend of tea and an ear for someone who needs to talk. But our monk took up being a tea monk because they were feeling unsatisfied in their current life pursuits, and they have just encountered a robot. And this is the first robot that any human has encountered since the robots left civilization. And it sounds like these two are going to go on a precious little adventure together, so the robot can figure out what humans want, and the monk can figure out what they want from life. This is lovely, and I'm really, really enjoying it, and I have the second book in this series so far. I'm going to call it a series. I also didn't realize this was a Hugo Award winner. So far, I have not started the audiobook, which isn't a good sign, because I was going to pick up these bright, super, what was that? It had an octopus on it, and it came through the library. Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I know nothing about this book, and I have not had any urge to pick it up, but that's just what being in a reading slump is all about. So maybe if I just pick it up, don't look at the synopsis and just go for it, maybe I'll enjoy it, but I haven't touched it yet. But I will check back in with you when I finished something. when I finish something, I'll just bless it, because with all these animals here, who knows how much actual reading time I'm going to get. Although I am literally being left right now. This is the first time I've been left alone by all of the animals since they arrived here. So fingers crossed. Let's keep it up. Nobody's going to come visit me. It's probably because he's cooking. They're all trying to see if they can, maybe he'll drop something on the floor and they'll get to eat it. Reading slump, reading vlog, going okay so far. I finished a book, and hopefully I can get through this without the dogs losing their ever-loving minds, because the power is out here, and so they are having to dig up my backyard, having something to do with a power cable situation. Literally everyone else on the street has power. It is my house that does not have power. But do you know what you can do when you don't have power? Read books, at least if it's daylight, or maybe if you have candles. So while I was sitting here waiting for the power to be restored with these dogs that are losing their marbles, I finished a book. I mean, it wasn't a big book, but I finished a book. This book, one of the dogs is standing on the coffee table. We're doing great here. This book was absolutely magical, lovely. If I could hug this book, I bet it would give great hugs back. They would be warm with just the right amount of pressure, and they would smell magical. They would smell like fresh baked goods. And tea. If you like the book Legends and Lattes, and how that book didn't necessarily have high stakes, was a little more slice of life, I think you'll like this. This is a little bit more about the meaning of life, about what life is about, but still slow paced and low stakes. And there's a robot in here, and his name is Mosscap. And then we have our monk, whose name is Sibling Dex. And this is the first book in a series, and basically this is the opener. This is our two main characters that are going to go on a journey together, meeting each other. And I love them, and I would die for them, and I would join a cult in their honor. This is lovely, and I can't wait to read the next one. And also I finished a book, which makes me feel very good about myself. I have also started Remarkably Bright Creatures, and all I can tell you about it so far is that we have at least 3 points of view, one of them being, what are you chewing back there? One of them being a woman in her 70s named Tova, I believe. She works as a kind of custodian at a aquatic center. Then we have Cameron. He is a young man. I don't know much about him other than he is an aunt who lives in a trailer park, and she sounds like a lot of fun times. And both of these characters have seemed to have been through a lot in their lives. And then our final character that we've gotten our point of view from, and the first original point of view that we start from, is an octopus named Marcellus. And he is a good time. This is giving me Finding Dory vibes. You know how there's that octopus that can escape all situations? This book has an octopus, is able to get his way out of his tank without anyone knowing. But he has an interaction with our janitor one night, and she helps him kind of as he's gotten tangled in a bunch of cords. She has been through a lot. Everybody's been through a lot. Marcellus is living in a tank, and I feel like he, every single time one of his chapters opens, tells you exactly how many days he's been living in captivity, and he has got a ticking clock above his head. He knows how long the lifespan of an octopus is, and he knows exactly how much time he probably has left. And I feel like this is going to be the kind of book that rips your heart out and makes you sob uncontrollably. But one of the point of views is an octopus, so of course I have to read it. I also might pick up the second book in this series, but I also have, hi Fergie. I also have another book that I have started and I'm about halfway through, so I haven't decided what I'm going to pick up physically next. But since the power is out and my Kindle is dead, the power's back! Now I can charge my Kindle. I'm excited. Okay. That's amazing. I'm glad we have power. I'll talk to you guys soon. In other news, my bookshelf, which I have been patiently waiting for since the beginning of time, it feels like. We ordered one bookshelf, it showed up, it was completely broken and scratched up and looked like somebody chewed it and then kicked the box all the way here. So we returned that bookshelf, purchased this bookshelf, and it took forever and a day to get here, but now it's here. It's put together. I'm gonna put books on it. I'm so excited. All right, let's put books on my bookshelf. Okay, everyone wants to eat my microphone. Bye, cheese. You'll stay with me, right? You've got some hot breath situations happening. There's also just like drool. Just lots of, oh, it's on my pants. Thank you. We're doing great. If I come across as having the personality of a cardboard box, it is because where I live, oh, we're going to sit on the air conditioning vent. It's a choice. Where I live, we are having record high temperatures out of nowhere, and so all the flowers are blooming. So I currently feel like I'm dying because allergies where I live are no joke. So this is what a corpse looks like when it's attacked by pollen. But enough about that. What we are here to talk about is the fact that I finished 2 more books. I finished Remarkably Bright Creatures, and what I will say about this is I don't know if I would have finished this if it wasn't on audio. Not that it's bad. It's not bad. It's just not the type of story that I usually like. The first half of the book really had me. I was totally invested, but for some reason, the second half kind of lost me. And I think that's because there wasn't nearly as much of Marcellus. He is a great Pacific octopus, and he is one of the points of view in our story. So we basically have 3, really it's 4 point of views in this story, but basically this is the story of Tova. She is a nighttime janitor at an aquatic center, kind of like an aquarium. Cameron, who is a young man who hasn't really gotten off his feet into life. He had a rough start of things and has kind of used that as an excuse to not really excel or try in any part of his life. And then the 4th point of view that only comes up a couple of times is another member of the small town that the aquarium is in. What was his name? Was it Ethan or Evan? He's an older man and he owns the local grocery store. Also, he has a crush on Tova. This is a family drama that's not about family. Tova had some horrible things happen to her throughout her life, and she's kind of all by herself. Cameron has had some horrible things happen to him in his life, and he's kind of all by himself. It's fine. I don't really just love plain old contemporary literature. I read as a form of escapism, and reading about people that I could probably encounter in my everyday life doesn't feel like too much of an escapism, which is just to say that this book really isn't for me. I picked it because there was an octopus on it and everybody told me it was a good book. It's a fine book. I gave it a 3. It was fine. Did it get me on my reading slump? No, it didn't. Also, the reading slump might have had to do with the fact that I just didn't really love it, but that's neither here nor there. The other book I finished was Gild by Raven Kennedy. This is our King Midas retelling. This first book, and I knew this going into it, having been warned by other friends on Goodreads, is basically a setup for the entirety of the series. So book 1 is all setup and just trauma and trigger filled nonsense. There's a lot of really dark things that happen in this book, and there's a lot of dark things that are happening to our main character that she 9 times out of 10 isn't even completely aware of how bad the things are that are happening around her. It seems like she is living in a state of denial. But I think that's realistic coming from the point of view as someone who has been groomed from a very young age and believes that her captor is her savior. Throughout the book, she's starting to get a little distance from the mindset that she had of King Midas being just the bestest, dreamiest guy in the whole wide world. But we're just getting the starts of that throughout this book. I have a feeling that book 2 is going to be much better because she's going to have more distance from her gross King Midas, but she's also going to have interaction with people that she has been given one story about, and she's going to see a completely different version of basically the reality of what these people actually are. The first book I ended up giving a 3.5. It was good enough that I'm willing to keep going. And everyone keeps ranting and raving that book 2 and book 3 are amazing in this. You just have to get all of this setup and backstory in book 1. Was that the best choice for a book when you're in a reading slump? No, it wasn't, because guess what? We're still in a reading slump. We read 3 books and we're still in a reading slump. We didn't find the magic formula. That's okay. That's okay, guys, because we're going to give it another try. We're going to keep going. I'm a little disappointed. I also feel like maybe if I felt better, I'd be a little bit more excited about this. Where I live, everything is about to be covered in like this layer of neon, like greeny yellow pollen gets on everything. And even if you don't usually have allergies, you just can't breathe and your eyes get red and itchy and everything is just covered in it and gross. Even one of my, I don't know about Cheese because we haven't ever had her through a allergy season before, but I've had previous dogs that we've had to wash them quite frequently because the pollen was an allergen to them. They were allergic to the pollen, and so you're having to bathe your dog often, which could be irritating to their skin. But if you don't, then they're gonna have allergies to the pollen. It's fun. It's a fun time. Come to the South. We're having a great time. Ugh. That's going to be the end of this pizza party. And just keep your fingers crossed so I can get out of this reading slump. I haven't given up hope, but I hope you're reading good stuff out there wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.